Thank you, Chair. Distinguished guests, thank you very much for inviting me to attend this important forum. Because of time limit, so I think I will shorten my presentation. But looking at the list of panelists for today's activity, I realize that I am the only panelist from the Asia-Pacific region. And I am so happy to share with you some of the experience that Vietnam have during the 15 years of implementing MDGs. Recently, our Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam has coordinated with various organizations in Vietnam to review how Vietnam has done so far in implementing the MDGs initiated by the United Nations. I'm very happy to inform you that Vietnam is one of the nations well implemented it, and we have finished so many at least three targets, goals in advance of 2015. And today, I'm happy to share with you some experience and good practices we already had drawn from the past 15 or 2 years. The first lesson after reviewing, we realized that the government of Vietnam had a very high political will and commitment in implementing the MDGs. These high political will and commitments expressed many times by our top leaders. Especially in September 2000, our president had emphasized that Vietnam is strongly committed to being a rapid, efficient, and sustainable development society in which economic growth goes hand in hand with the social progresses, justice, and environment protections. This high political commitment is very important and putting the layout for the success of Vietnam during the past 15 years. The second lesson we already drawn out is the good governance and strong institutions. Of course, we are developing countries, and like many others, we so far have not so good governance institutions, but there are many definitions. In terms of implementing MDGs, the definition of good governance and strong institutions from our perspective is that it must consist of a system of sound policies, effective regulatory mechanisms, and practical guidelines. I here would like to emphasize practical guidelines, extremely important. And we have to go down to localities to match what we have worked out in policy terms and what are the practice, and to match it with each other. The second component of this lesson is effective bureaucracies and strong institutions. With high political wills, sound policies, and plans, they are very important and preconditions for successfully implementing MDGs. But they are alone cannot be sufficient to guarantee the effective implementation of goals. So the quality of government, here I emphasize the local government, is very important. And we have coordinated with the ADB, World Bank, IMF, in many projects, many programs have improved the capacity or help the local government to build capacity very much related to MDGs. And this is a very important components of the success of Vietnam during the past 2 decades. The role of Ministry of Education and Training, the role of Vietnam's National Committee for Advancement of Women, and the Association of Veterans in Vietnam are extremely important in coordinating projects, in coordinating in channeling funds in implementing MDGs. The third lesson we drawn out is that we need innovation and creativeness. Among of these creative things, we already localized the MDGs by inventing our own Millennium Goals of Vietnam. We call it MGV. This is also important because sometimes the goal here are generous. We need to make it practical and suitable for localities. And the locality based on this to implement, and then we later on match them with the MDGs. And we also integrate the goal, the MDGs, with the goal in national, local, and sectoral economic and social development strategies of Vietnam. This is the very important part. Vietnam also designed the comprehensive program for poverty reduction. This serves as the overall strategy for us to implement the goal of poverty reduction, and poverty reduction is one of the biggest successful stories in Vietnam so far in implementing MDGs. The fourth lesson we already drawn out is the ownership, flexibility for local authorities, and active stakeholders' participations. Here we highlight the role of women, of disadvantaged peoples, and we encourage them to have community-based poverty reduction. These things are extremely important. At the same time, we are also encouraging timely provision of information, availability of sufficient resources for prioritization, and effective feedback mechanisms. These things serve as important tools in managing, in giving out the flexibility for the local government, and in managing the role of the stakeholders in participating and implementing the MDGs. And last but not least is the proactive policy advocacy and enhanced role of communities and media. Here I would like to emphasize, I'm sorry that we don't have time to analyze every lessons here because time limit, and I am ready to entertain with you. But let me conclude that in Vietnam, we are quite successful in terms of implementing MDGs, and one of the key reasons for us is that we already engage various stakeholders into this implementation process. And it also shows that even though we are poor countries, even though resources are limited, but we can be successful with this. And we are strongly believe that our lessons and our good practice, our experience can continue to be applied in implementing the 11 goals and the new targets that we have, our top leaders have already imagined. So thank you very much for your patience. I'm now ready to entertain all of you with Q&A section. Thank you so much.